Hi, everyone. Today I decided to talk about certain questions that can put the narcissist back in their place, keep their tongues twisted and their brains scrambled. Narcissists, they seem to think that they always have the upper hand, but these questions will prove different. So if you're in the mood to play a little, watch this video and then watch them squirm. And also at the end of the video, I'm going to leave some questions that you may want to ask if you're just starting to date someone new. Some questions to ask and then some to avoid. And by the way, please click on that like button, subscribe or comment or all of the above. This supports my work. So thank you. Okay, so here we go. There are certain questions that a narcissist simply cannot answer. And not because they don't understand the words here, but because answering them honestly would threaten the entire identity that they've built. Every narcissist lives behind a carefully constructed mask, the perfect one, the victim, the savior, the genius. And when you ask a question that cracks that mask, you're not just seeking clarity, you're confronting their illusion. So let's go through the questions that narcissists can't answer and what their silence, deflection, or rage really means. Because once you understand why, like why they can't answer, you'll finally see what's been hidden underneath their charm and confidence all along. So question 1, can you take responsibility for your part in this? This is the simplest question that most people can answer in any healthy relationship. But for the narcissist, it's unbearable. Accountability is like acid to their false self. To admit fault would mean acknowledging imperfection, and that's something their fragile ego cannot tolerate. So instead of answering, what they'll do is they'll rewrite the entire story. You'll hear things like, I wouldn't have said that if you hadn't pushed me. Or, you started this. What was I supposed to do? So they'll turn the question back on you until somehow you become the one apologizing. Their inability to take responsibility, it reveals a simple truth. They value being right more than being real. Question number 2, tell me about a time that you were wrong. And you'd think this would be easy, right? Everyone makes mistakes here. But for the narcissist, admitting one means losing control of the narrative. So if you press them, you'll notice that their tone is going to change. They'll minimize the event. They'll blame others or find a way to make the lesson about how amazing they were for overcoming it. You might hear, yeah, I used to trust people too much. Or I guess my biggest mistake was caring too much. These aren't admissions, they're humble brags. They sound like self-awareness, but really they're ego protection. Deep down, they don't believe that they can do wrong. They only believe other people can fail them. And if you pose this question in a heated argument, you'll see them rage at that point. They'll go on an attack and blame. But even in a light, friendly conversation, say you're getting to know someone, you might ask, what's something that you got wrong once and how did you handle it? For most people, that's easy. It shows growth. But for a narcissist, even a harmless question like that, it becomes dangerous for them, because to admit being wrong in any context at all feels like losing power for them. Most likely they'll turn this into a joke somehow, like, am I on trial here? With half a smile, and deviate the subject, but they won't answer. Question number 3, how do you think that made me feel? And this question, it demands empathy. And empathy is the one language that they can speak intellectually, but they never feel emotionally. They might give a surface answer, I guess that hurt you, but it won't come with real recognition. They can describe emotion, but they can't connect to it. In their mind, your feelings are obstacles, inconvenient reminders that the world does not revolve around them. So when you ask this, you'll often get irritation, sarcasm, or silence, because for them, the point isn't how you felt. It's whether they still look like the good guy or the good gal. Now, with a healthy person, you would get, once they ponder how you might have felt, an answer like, I so didn't mean to hurt you. I wasn't thinking. But with a narcissist, you'll get more like, made you feel? What about me? They'll use Darvo. deny, attack, reverse the victim and offender. They can respond, but they can't answer the question. Question number 4, why did you do that? It seems like a fair question, right? But this one cuts straight through their defense system. Why exposes motive. And a narcissist's motives are rarely as innocent as they pretend. So they'll twist your words, they'll deflect or give you a vague answer like, you're too sensitive, or I didn't mean it that way, or can we just drop this? If they cheated and you ask why, they'll angrily tell you that it was because of you, not the real reason, because the real reason was to get attention, to get supply. They wanted someone to be impressed by them. They're not going to tell you that. And again, here they responded or reacted, but they didn't answer the question. They know exactly why they did it, to regain control if you try to have a conversation with them about an issue, for example, to test you, to get a reaction if they're in need of more supply. But they can't afford to say it out loud. The truth would shatter their image of being justified, moral, and superior. Their silence or their anger is their confession. With narcissists, you can get answers, but you can't rely on the words for those answers because they'll be lies if they do answer. You have to rely on their behavior that follows the question. Number 5, what does this person contribute to your life? Strange question, you might be thinking, but ask them this about their boss, and other than a paycheck, of course, or their friend or pastor, and watch the reaction. This question, it threatens the narcissist hierarchy, because to admit someone else has value is to admit equality, and equality does not exist in their world. If you ask this, you might hear, I don't know, they're just useful. Or, why do you always ask stupid questions? They can't give genuine credit because they live with a scarcity mindset. If someone else shines, their own light feels dimmer. They see relationships as transactions, not connections. So when you challenge them to recognize someone else's worth, what it does is it exposes how empty their own emotional world really is. Number 6, why do you deserve this? For example, there's a promotion coming up at work and they're one of 5 people that could get it. And this one targets their entitlement, the belief that they are special, superior, and exempt from the rules that apply to everyone else. They often can't explain why they deserve something, only that they do. And if you do ask, you might want to be more specific, like why you more than the other. Mind you, they'll tell you how much better they are. It's as if the world owes them admiration just for existing. But that question, it leaves them feeling uneasy, like you doubt them. When pushed, they'll flip the conversation. You don't think I deserve it? And suddenly, you're the one on trial for questioning their worth. They don't earn, they expect. And that's why this question exposes their emptiness. There's no substance behind the self-importance, only entitlement holding it up. Question number 7 is, what is it that you love about me? Watch them with that one. This one, it stumps them every time. Because for a narcissist, love isn't about the other person. It's about what they get from the other person. Attention, validation, admiration, and control. But ask them to describe what they love about you and you'll hear, you're good to me, you understand me, you listen, aka obey. And notice something here? Every answer is about them, not about who you are, but how you serve their needs. Meanwhile, what's lovable about you is your kindness, your determination, your friendly persona, your creativity, and that's to name a few. But they don't see that. Your kindness isn't seen as kindness, it's seen as vulnerability. Your determination qualities is seen as good slave, and your friendly persona, something they have to smother because that threatens them. You dim their light. They can't articulate real love because they don't see you as separate from themselves. You're an extension of their ego, a mirror reflecting their significance. And when that reflection fades, so does their version of love. Question number 8, what are you afraid of? And this question, it cuts right to their humanity. And that's the one thing that they spend their life denying. To admit fear would mean admitting vulnerability. And vulnerability to them equals humiliation. You'll hear things like, I'm not afraid of anything, or fear is for weak people. But underneath that bravado lives deep fear of being rejected and abandoned, insignificant and exposed. They can't acknowledge it. So instead, they project it. They make you feel small, scared, and insecure, the very things that they can't face in themselves. Question number 9. What do you actually want from this relationship? And this question, it demands honesty, and honesty is not compatible with manipulation. The narcissist can't answer because they don't want a relationship. They want a supply source. They want attention, validation, loyalty, and control. If they said that out loud, the illusion would crumble. So instead, they'll speak in circles. I just want us to be happy. I don't know, why do you have to label everything? Or if they do answer, it'll be something that serves them. They'll say that they want honesty, but that means that they want to be informed about everything, your whereabouts, your friends, etc. They'll say that they want faithfulness, and you'll think, nice, they have the same values as me. Wrong. What that means to them is one-sided. So instead, when asking someone a question like this, look for responses that address values. Answers like open communication. They're looking for family connection, financial stability, laughter, cuddling, things like that. If it's a narcissist that you're dealing with, they'll make you feel unreasonable for even asking. But silence here, it speaks volumes because they can't imagine love that isn't about what they gain. And adding an addendum here, it doesn't mean that all people who don't open up like that are narcissists here. Some people have been hurt and can be more guarded when you're just starting to date them, right? But the narcissist will definitely respond in this manner. And number 10, who are you when no one's watching? This is the question that reaches their core, the self that they spend their entire life avoiding. Who are they when they're not admired, praised, or feared, right? Who are they without an audience? With healthy people, a response could be something like, well, as chatty as I am, I'm actually pretty quiet. Or when I'm not socializing, I'm actually working in my gardens. But for most narcissists, that question brings a blank stare, because without external validation, their sense of identity, it collapses. There's no self underneath the performance. There's only emptiness, there's shame, and there's confusion. It's why they need constant attention. It's why they reinvent themselves to every new person that they meet. And it's why when you stop feeding the illusion, they panic. This question, it reveals the truth they'll never say out loud, of course. They don't actually know who they are. When you look at all these questions together, you'll see a pattern emerge. Every one of them demands one of 3 things: accountability, empathy, and authenticity. And those are the 3 things that a narcissist cannot sustain. So when you ask these questions and get silence, anger, or deflection, that's not confusion, that's exposure. You've touched the part of them that they spend their entire life hiding. They can't answer because their entire identity is built on not needing to. The bottom line is you'll never get an honest answer from someone who's terrified of honesty. You can't reason your way into self-awareness for someone who lives off of denial. You can't ask real questions in a relationship built on illusion. But that silence or non-clear answer is an answer. It tells you everything that you need to know about where the truth ends and where the performance begins. Every time that they deflect, deny, or twist your words, they're showing you how deeply they fear being seen. And that's not your burden to fix, because your questions, your need for clarity, truth, and connection, those aren't the problem. They're proof that you are still real in a relationship that was built on pretending. So if you've ever asked these questions and walked away confused, take a breath and understand this. Their inability to answer is not a reflection of your worth. It's evidence of their emptiness. And sometimes the most powerful answer you'll ever get is the silence that finally tells you who they really are. Now, if you're just starting to date someone new in your life and you want to be able to tell if that person is authentic, because you do want to know these days since the number of narcissists are on the rise, you can plan for a get to know each other date and ask questions like this. Can you think of a time that you made a mistake and what you learned from it? That shows a person who is up for growth. Of course, if they answer, right? What's something that you used to believe but later changed your mind about? That shows you an open-minded person. Again, if they answer. Another question is there a time that you look back and think, yeah, I could have handled that differently? That shows someone who has compassion and thinks about the feelings of others. And another question, what's a decision that you've made that taught you a lot about yourself? That shows self-reflection. And you can come up with your own questions, including some of the above, but that I mentioned a while ago throughout this video. But these questions here sound reflective, not accusatory. Perfect for conversational or interview contexts. They'll still invite accountability, but in a way that feels open rather than challenging. But I also want to add a cliff note here. If you're just starting, you might want to avoid questions about their past relationships, their families, things of that nature, because that isn't going to give you any information, because for all you know, they could be feeding you a bunch of lies. Plus, they in turn can ask you the same questions. And if you're dealing with a narcissist, that's the type of info that you want to avoid divulging. So be safe, be wise, be smart. This is where I leave you for today, and I hope it's been helpful, and we shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.